We're back with Preet Bharara. He's a podcast host, author of the new book, Doing Justice, A Prosecutor's Thoughts on Crime, Punishment, and the Rule of Law. We want to get your thoughts right now on everything going on in Washington, D.C. News today, Attorney General Barr on the Capitol Hill today talking about his timeline for releasing the Mueller report, saying that sort of sticking with it, it's coming soon, but that Congress might not get an unredacted version.
That's what he said.
I want to know what you make of that, and also the fact that he didn't talk about whether the White House was briefed on the report or not.
Yeah, so on the first question, he said it's going to come within the week. I think the biggest question in Washington and throughout the country right now with respect to that issue is how much will be redacted and how much won't. It sounds like it's going sort of full redaction mode. Among other things, he said that he didn't think it was his responsibility or his obligation to seek a court order to allow the disclosure of what we call grand jury information, 6E information, which I think befuddled some members of the House in the majority. But I guess we'll have to see. You know, depending on how much black there is in the document that's finally released to Congress and the public, there will be more or less fighting. My guess is, and I hate to predict because I've been wrong like most people in the country the last couple of years, but my prediction is that there will be a fairly substantial fight, because it doesn't sound like Bill Barr is going out of his way, notwithstanding his rhetoric of transparency, but I don't think he's going really far out of his way to provide really as much information as the public and Congress want.
Well, and just thinking about the Mueller report, you alluded to it earlier where, as a prosecutor, you can't just make a judgment if you don't have the information. Yeah. But maybe try to bring us inside that room or what you think may have been happening in that room. At a certain point, the team is sitting around and they say, all right, well, we can't say one way or another. We're going to get killed on this thing. What's kind of that political calculus, if there is any, and how agonizing is that decision, knowing how high profile their comments are going to be, to ultimately say, well, we can't render a judgment?
I don't know how agonizing it is. I've been thinking over the last number of days about similar situations that I've been in. Mm-hmm. And obviously, the role of the prosecutor is to make a decision. You charge or not charge. It's really, Barr said this today, and I agree with this formulation. It's a binary decision. There was a case once involving an entity that you would know, but I will not tell you, that my office investigated for a period of time, and they wrote a memo. People write memos. It's not a report. It's a memo to be read internally that I took home, maybe 40 or 50 pages, and they're laying out the case for indicting. And they're also laying out the case for the defenses, some of which are reasonable. And with bated breath, I'm waiting till I get to the end of the document to see what the recommendation is from my team, and there's no recommendation. And I remember being kind of irritated, but also understanding of it, and we got together and talked about it. And so it was a really close question. We wanted to have a discussion about it and didn't want to make you prejudge. And in that case, we decided not to proceed because I think if the case is very close against an ordinary person or entity, you give the benefit of the doubt to the target. Here, it sounds like they came to the same conclusion that is a very, very close question. The difference is you're not talking about an ordinary person like those of us here, or an entity. You're talking about the President of the United States, for whom there is an accountability mechanism in the Constitution known as impeachment, which has been done before. And he also has the protection of this Department of Justice policy memorandum that says you can't be prosecuted while you're in office. And so I think they may have agonized about how close the question it was. I think we'll see how much is on one side of the ledger and how much is on the other side of the ledger to make our own determinations. But I think that Bob Mueller thought you don't just walk away from something like this. You lay it out for the proper entity, which I think was Congress, not Bill Barr.
So, Preet, we just passed the 2-year mark of you being fired by President Trump.
Yes, we did.
And we talk about the labor market all the time. And as we think about, it's a great time to be looking for a job. I understand you have
many jobs.
You have many jobs. You wear many hats. I'm sure every investment bank, a lot of people in even the Valley must be reaching out to you as we see this crossover happening a lot with government and tech. As you think about your future opportunities, what really excites you, especially as you have dabbled in media now?
Yeah, so I'm having a really good and gratifying time teaching at NYU Law School as I do, writing this book, which was very agonizing, but it's much better now, having written it. I have 2 podcasts, one where I interview folks and answer questions, another where my co-host and I break down the news every Monday morning. I write, I give talks all over the place. I have this insider trading task force. I also am part of a democracy task force that makes recommendations to Congress on how we might shore up the institutions of democracy. So that's a lot of stuff. I consider that to be a form of public service. I'm not employed by the government. Taxpayers don't fund me anymore. But I think there's a time in this country, and one of the reasons I wrote the book and do the talking that I do, there are lots of people who are not lawyers, and they're concerned about the country. They're concerned about what's happening in Washington. They're concerned about institutions being denigrated. They're concerned about the rule of law, and I think they're right to be concerned about those things. And so one thing that I have been doing, and every time I turn on the television, there's another person who used to work for me who's on TV, explaining to the public what a grand jury is and how fairness is accomplished and how the rule of law is maybe at risk, and we should think more deeply about those things. I like doing that and plan to do that for a while longer.
This comes to like a little speed round portion.
Uh-oh.
So it's just, I listen to the podcast, so it's so weird having you talk. I listen to it all the time, just in my ear.
I want to know your, right here,
I want to know your thoughts on a number of things.
It's a computer-generated voice.
Okay. First of all, are you as obsessed by the college admission scandal as everybody else, or are you just so jaded that you're like, so many people are bad, doesn't really surprise me?
So I think a couple of things fascinating about that. One is it takes a lot for a legal story to break through to the public.
Right, and this one has.
This one, the only two that I can think of in recent times are this case and the Jussie Smollett case, the alleged hate crime and then apparent, falsity of the allegation. And the reason this case, I think, is broken through is everyone can identify with it. Everyone has thought about college or knows someone who went to college or is thinking about higher education for, an offspring or someone else. And they think, well, I do it by the rules. And you kind of understood that there was a way that privileged people had some advantage. But when even privileged people have some advantage, not that different from insider trading, by the way. When you charge a billionaire who says, well, why would I cheat? Because I have $1 billion. Well, they have, and they do. And that's true of some people like this, too. And the second thing, when we talk about Michael Cohen and everyone wondering about the red line that the president has issued and saying, oh, they can't talk about my finances, and they went to look at this, and then they found this other thing. No one is complaining, by the way, with respect to the college admission scandal, that began as a securities fraud investigation with respect to a particular person. That person got pinched and said, you know what, have I got some information for you? And the only reason you have the case is because that person flipped and then turned on the authorities to this college admission scandal. And no one's complaining and saying, wait, it was supposed to be about collusion. Like, what are you doing here? That's a thing that happens all the time. It's ordinary. It's garden variety criminal law enforcement.
Well, and on that point, Matt Levine of Bloomberg, who I'm sure you know or know of, has said that everything is securities law, and it kind of feels like the Cohen case.
I don't know about everything.
And just on that point, does it feel like so much of the legal system can kind of just go back to the old follow the money, right? And something in securities law offers you an entree into college admission scandal or something like that.
Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes you get entree to securities fraud because of something else going on. People get pinched for something that's a smaller fraud, or you name it. Yeah. That can get you into securities fraud. But it's natural for law enforcement officials to be looking at one thing, and then under their noses they find another thing. So then they look at that other thing, and I think that's how people would want it to be.
All right, one more.
All right.
Boeing. We're covering it every day. And we just had Carson Block, who's a noted short seller, on. He doesn't have a position. But, a lot of people are looking at it and saying, is the government going to get involved? Do you think there'll be charges? Do you think that it's being looked at that level?
I wouldn't be surprised if it were being looked at. I wouldn't be, and I don't know. I have no inside knowledge. I wouldn't be surprised if it's being looked at by the Southern District or some other office. The closest analog that I can recall from my time overseeing that office is we brought cases, again, it's different, but it's also motor transportation. We brought significant cases against both Toyota and General Motors because they were having issues with safety and their disclosures to the Department of Transportation. We settled both of those cases in excess of $1 billion each. I think they had a big effect on how people in the automotive industry thought about safety, thought about disclosures they would make, and not sweep things under the rug. I don't know if this is analogous to that, but I would not be, if I were in office, we would be having a conversation about it. That's all I'll say.
All right, thanks for having a conversation with us, entertaining all my little questions. Thanks a lot, Preet Bharara, the former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York and the author of Doing Justice. Thanks so much.